We left off on Chav Zayin and Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. We were discussing a case of a person went and did shchita on the bechor without first showing it to a mumche, to an expert. And later the expert comes and examines and finds that it's a blemish. So the mayor says we don't allow him to eat the meat. So the question was, why? Is it because there's a certain type of mum which you can only really evaluate it properly when it's alive? Because once the animal dies, there's certain changes, and it appears to be a mum. It's not a mum. So, but that's only a certain. We spoke about the cataract in the eye, but another mum. So the Gemara wants to say that according to Rameir, that the reason why, even if it's another mum, which it doesn't change when it's live or it dies, because there's a gzeira. If you allow the person to rely on this, he slaughtered it without asking the mumche regarding the cataract. He may do the same, or maybe no. We penalize him that since he did something which he wasn't permitted to do, because until it's been confirmed that it's a mum, which you need the expert, so therefore we penalize him. It's a kanas. That's the reason why we're mayor. So the Gemara says, we're over here. We were able to deduce from the Mishnah that since it was slaughtered not based on the ruling of a mumcha, of an expert, you're not permitted. It's confirmed that the reason why Rameir says you're not permitted is not because you're not permitted to see a mum. Maybe it's the Gemara says ein ro mum b'yom tiv. You're not permitted to see a mum on Yom Tiv. So from here it's clear. It's not because you're not permitted to see a mum. The reason is because he did something irresponsible, that he slaughtered it without knowing that it was a mum. So therefore we penalize him. Ami Vardino Havi Buchor de Beinesio. Here, his name was Ami Vardino. He had a bechor. It was in the house of the Nosi, Havi Biyom Tabo Lo V'chozi. So it was Yom Tif. They didn't make the evaluation on Yom Tif. There was a bechor that had a mum, and it was Yom Tif. Also v'omrulei l'Rebami. So they wanted to tell Rebami that they wouldn't evaluate it on Yom Tif. This is Ami Vardino. He said he went to Rebbe Ami. 2 different people. Amalus, he said to Shapakovi Luchosi, they did the right thing. They did the right thing not to evaluate it on Yom Tif. Because we said earlier, there's an opinion that you're not permitted to see mumin, either because it's nirukim asakin, either because it's like you're perfecting it, or because it's like the equivalent of convening a bezdin. So Mozini, how could you say that he said that they did the right thing? Rabami Gufi Chosi, Rabami himself, he would evaluate mumin. How could you say Rabami? You tell me over. They said to Rabami's response was they did the right thing. Rabami personally, he would make the evaluation. He would give rulings on mumin. Right? In fact, Rabami, when he saw the mum, he saw it before Shabbos, before Yom Tif. He only revealed it. What he saw before, he gave you what he had thought, but the actual sighting of it and the valuation was before Yom Tif. Ubi Yom Tif, Shil Kamashayel. Yeah. And on Yom Tif, so what is it? He would tell them. She says, Pomim Shoya Torah Berev Yom Tif. It was that he was preoccupied. He says, look, you don't need the animal, you're not slaughtering it, come back tomorrow. But factually he had the answer ready, but because he was preoccupied with something else and the answer wasn't pressing at this moment, just come back tomorrow, I'll tell you tomorrow. And then he would ask the question, how did it come about? Why? Now what's that? The Mishnah says in Bechoros that a person, or Yisrael has a Bechor. What do you do with it? You keep it for 30 days, and then you give it to the Kohen. Now the question is, what does the Kohen do with it? Today we have no Beis HaMikdash. So the Kohen has to wait till he gets a mum. Once it gets a mum, he could actually slaughter it and eat it like ordinary meat. But until it gets the mum, he's stuck. So it's a financial problem for him, and it's a time problem for him. So he tries to improvise and devise ways to cause the animal to get a mum. And the Kohen was suspect that he did these things. So he wanted to ask the Kohen. He already decided it was a mum before Yom Tov, because he saw it. But he wanted to do the interrogation to the Kohen to ask him the question to see whether it was intentional or not intentional. If it was intentional, he's going to penalize him. He's not going to let him benefit from it. But if it was done accidentally, then he will allow him to benefit. Any mum which could come about, which it's not a natural defect. It comes about because of it comes about through a human being causing it. If the shepherd is a regular Yisrael, where he has nothing to gain from it, he's believed to say how it happened. A Kohen who's a Roy, he's a shepherd, he's not believed, he's not trusted. Because we're concerned that maybe he intentionally did something to cause it. When he has to bring proof that it came about by itself, it wasn't something that he was the cause of. He was the cause of it, will not let him benefit from it. Okay? Like this incident, this is telling you an incident. Somebody brought a bechor to Ravo, and it was what? It was Erev Yom Tif. Havi Yosef Ravo ko Chayif Reishei. So Ravo was busy preparing for Yom Tif. He was taking a head wash. Doli Eini v'chazio l'mumei. Rava just lifted his eyes and he saw the mum. He saw that it had a blemish. He said to this person who brought the bechor, go now, come back tomorrow. I'll let you know tomorrow. Because he was busy preparing for Yom Tov. The next day he comes, he says, tell me, how did it happen? How did the mum happen? He says, what I did was I put sorim, I put barley on this other side of the hutzo. Yeah, on the other side of the fence. Yeah, and the animal was on the other side. Yeah, the animal was on one side of the fence, and the barley is on the other side of the fence. So how is the animal supposed to get it? He has to stick its head through the fence. But let's say they're let's say something like barbed wire, or there'd be briars there. So when the animal puts its head through and pulls it back, it lacerates its lip or whatever it is, which causes a mum. Yeah. The boy lemech ayreshi parte hutza lesuse, and as it pulls its head back, the wood of the fence goes and cuts its lip. So he understood that. This is what the person did. Omalei. So Rava says to this person, maybe you're the cause of it. You intentionally set it up that way, defeat it, put it on the other side because you wanted the animal, put its head through, and when it pulls back, it'll lacerate its lip. Omalei lo. He says, no, that's not it. That's not what happened. Someone says, no, tamer or the groma. So how do we know groma? I mean, if he did it that way, if he would take a knife and cut the lip, that's a Torah violation. But what do we see? Indirect causality, you're also in violation. The Tanya, mum lo yebo, it says, it should not have a mum. Eli elo shlo yebo mum. That's what? It's not, if it has a mum, it loses its status. How do we know that you can't cause the mum? Even causality is not permitted. You put, what's his name, on its ear, or a dried fig on its ear, that you want a dog to come, bite into the dough, or bite into the sweet fig, and its teeth will pierce the ear of the animal. And if it pierces the ear, what happens? The animal becomes a balmum. Talmud kol mum. It says kol mum lo yebu. Mum v'omer kol mum. Not only is a mum invalidated, even through causality, even that's considered mum lo yebu. You're not permitted to inflict this kind of wound, even through causality. Okay. Be'embo shemeso. Let's see, an animal dies, so it's a carcass. So what is it? What is it fit for? Only for use it for dog food. You feed it to the dogs. Lo yazizenu koma. If it dies, you're not permitted to move it. It's considered muktzah. They went and they asked Reb Tarfon regarding this animal that died. And challah, the dough, became tomei. You tied bread, you give it to the kohen, the challah. The challah, what happens when it becomes contaminated? You have to burn it. On Yom Tov, you're not permitted to burn it. Because that's the halacha of ein sarf and kosher Yom Tov. You're not permitted to burn it. So if that's the case, once its value has no value, so you're not permitted to touch it. It's muktzah. It's off limits. So what happened? there was an incident. Chalish nidmeis. V'nichlas beisameshu shoal. V'amr lo yazim koman. They asked on both these situations. He says you should not move it from its location. Let's take a look at Rashi. Chalash nidmeis. Einu ruya lekohen hayom. What's the Kohen do with it today? Tomorrow he burns it. He could benefit from its heat. While it burns, he could benefit from it. Do achila asura lo'olam, right? You're not permitted to eat it because it's contaminated. I'm reading Rashi. Ubasoko l'sita l'kalbo b'yom tivosar, to burn it, or even to give it to the dog. To eat on yom tiv is not permitted. They environ kochim tmeim min ha'olam b'yom tiv. You're not permitted to burn, destroy kochim tmeim. I feel like the achilas behem the kaimel and change so from kochim b'yom tiv. We rule to Mishnah Shabbos. We don't burn kochim on yom tiv. Because this is lochem v'lo gavoa. You're permitted to ochel nefesh for yourself and not for gavoa. It's not only because you're burning it, and it's not called ochel nefesh. As you see, let's say you have contaminated truma oil. You can't use that for illumination. Why? Because since it's truma, that's called sreifus kochim. Havorel tzorchi hadlokas ner biyomtiv tzorchili muteres afilu hochi shem sreifa lo. What's shem sreifa? Rashi says who shem and truma. Shenit meis yet oil that was extracted from olives that were truma. That oil is what? This truma oil. The Kohen's permitted to burn it. Shenit meis t'gzeres kosavi shen kochim tmeim svarim biyomtiv. T'rachman achshava lahavarosa. The Torah values its burning. The chsiv beishti soreif hilkach melochi. Saying something interesting. The halacha is mekalkel. If you do a destructive act on Shabbos and Yom Tov, what is it? You're not liable. There's no liability at Torah level, right? Because all malach we learn from the Mishkan. Melech's machshavos has to be creative. Has to be a creative activity which is constructive. But if you do an act which is destructive, there's no liability on the Torah level. Rabbinically, you're not permitted to be mekalkel. Right, the Gemara says that if a person goes and he'll dig a hole in his kitchen floor. What is that? Although digging is normally binyan, building, because you dig, you put a foundation, whatever it is, or to hide something, but a person doesn't dig a hole in the middle of his living room. So what is that? You have a perfect floor, and you go and you create a depression there. Elsewhere, maybe you have value, but not in your dining room or your living room. That's mekalkel. There's no Torah violation. Because it's not a creative, constructive, it's destructive. Okay? That's the rabbinically you're not permitted to do it. So Rashi says something interesting. Yeah, the Torah says that when truma becomes tummy, you have to burn it. You have to burn it. So, but the Mishnah says ain't served from kochim Yom Tov. You're not permitted to burn truma tameo on Yom Tov. Question: why not? See, it's mekalkel. You're destroying it, right? Why not? Rabbinically, so you say rabbinically. But even rabbinically, why? You say rabbinically, so Rashi says something interesting. But it seems it's a malacha. The reason we're not permitting you're in violation of a malacha. Why is it a malacha? So he says, because since the Torah says there's a mitzvah to burn truma that becomes contaminated, so therefore that's the constructive aspect. Even though in terms of the truma it's being destroyed, but since simultaneously there's a constructive value that you're fulfilling the mitzvah of burning truma, that gives the malacha a value. Therefore, it's not called destructive, that's called constructive. Following. That's what Rashi's saying. I don't know what Rashi has to say it. Evidently, because it seems to be from the word. You'd say it's also midrabanan. Ain't served kochim yom, it's also midrabanan. Rashi seems to say it's this is the Raisa. He says it's a malocha. Since when you burn it, you're fulfilling the mitzvah of burning kochim, it's considered constructive, not destructive, although you're destroying the truma that's tummy. Yep. Okay.
Is it appearance or it actually is constructive?
That's called constructive. It is constructive. It is because you're fulfilling a mitzvah.
So it seems like it's clear cut. Why would Rashi have to comment?
No. It's not simple. It's still destructive because the object is being destroyed. You look at the physicality of it. Physically, it's being destroyed. Maybe that's not sufficient to make it destructive. It has to be in its reality constructive. Wait a second. Thing the Gemara says in Shoftim, the Gemara it says this mitzvah you have to destroy the chametz before Pesach. The Gemara says how do you know before Pesach? Because the pasuk reads Ach biyom harishon tashmisu mibatechem. It says biyom harishon. So the Gemara says maybe yom harishon means the first day Yom Tif. The first day Yom Tif you must destroy the chametz, but erev Yom Tif maybe you're permitted to have chametz. The Gemara has a number of ways how we know that when it says biyom rishon, rishon doesn't mean the first day Yom Tif, it means the day preceding Yom Tif. Okay, so the Gemara says Rabbi Kiva says that since Sreifa is a malacha, Sreifa is a malacha. There's an argument: is it a malacha or is it only a lav? Is it a lav yotzos? Is it a lav or it's no different than any other malacha? Burning, right? So since it's a malacha, how could the Torah say that you should burn? See, if it's just disposing of it, okay, you're not doing a malacha. But since the halacha of shreifas chametz, the mitzvah is to burn it, so you're doing a malacha. So how could you do a malacha on the first day Yom Tif? If Yom Rishon means first day, you can't do malacha. So it's clear because since it's shreifa, it means before Yom Tif. That's Rabbi Kiva. But if you hold you can dispose of it any way you want, then the halacha is maybe it does mean the first day. So the Gemara gives other reasons why you can't mean the first day, but this is not the reason. Okay, Rav Kiva says because it's a malacha, burning is a malacha, but it seems the Gemara says you see Rav Kiva's of the opinion he concurs with Rabbi Yehuda that how do you fulfill the mitzvah of tashbisu by only burning? But according to Chachamim that it's not burning. How do you know Biyom Rishon means the 14th and not the 15th? So it brings other reasons. Why don't we say Rashi saying what's the reason why feeding it to the dog your animal? Why is that considered a malacha? Because you're not permitted to even feed it to your animal. So maybe you're not even permitted to dispose of it. Not permitted to dispose of it. Same reason. Because that gives it its value. Since you fulfill the mitzvah of what? Of tashbisu. By disposing in other means of disposal, that turns it into a malacha. No, challah shenit based. The challah that became contaminated. Challah becoming contaminated is the equivalent of truma becoming contaminated. So it's muktzah. Why is it muktzah? Normally, what do you do with truma that comes? You burn it, and you can benefit from the heat. If it's oil, you can benefit from its light. The answer is no. It's a malacha, because it's considered Torah says you're only permitted to do for yourself. You're doing for Hashem here, doing the mitzvah, and you're only a beneficiary, a side beneficiary of it, while it's being burnt. Okay. No, burn anywhere. It has to be burnt, but it has to be burnt. It has to be through burning.
So you can't burn it, and that's why you can't move it.
That's since books it has no value, right? It has no value.
And even to perform the mitzvah.
Even for it doesn't make a difference because it's a malacha. No, you can't burn it. If you burn it, it's a malacha. No. Even you can't transfer because you're burning. To burn anything is a malacha. But so that was Rashi's why I said malacha. Because it says the mitzvah is to burn it. So what's Rashi saying? Even though you're destroying, and whenever we speak about malacha, it's not within the context of destroying. And here the mitzvah is to destroy it. So why is it a malacha? The answer is the Torah says that's the mitzvah. That you must burn it. Because that makes it constructive rather than destructive, even though the item is being destroyed. That's why you can't do it on Yom Tov.
It's just destructive, you could.
on a Torah level you could. It's only rabbinical. It's a rabbinical provision.
Is that similar to lighting a candle? Candle wax, you're showing the candle, but it's
No.
a mitzvah of lighting.
It's always, I mean,
Transferring
you're
the
permitted to,
fire.
are you permitted to light it, to make fire on Yom Tov? Yes. But if you make fire, fuel is being destroyed. You can't have fire unless you have fuel, correct?
Mhm.
So fire and fuel, consumption of fuel is synonymous.
Similar.
Okay. Lema Tanan Stomach look Reb Shimon. Seemingly the Mishnah is not going to Reb Shimon. The Tanya. Reb Shimon Mechatchas Adlun L'fnei Behem. We had this in that base. You're permitted to take gourds and cut them up before the animals to feed them on Yom Tov. So Rashi said on that base, this is not the first case is not muktzah. It's only because it's tircha. It's an effort. You're permitted to make an effort, even though it's strenuous, to feed the animals on Yom Tov. That's on the nevela l'fnei aklovim. And if an animal died, you could take the nevela, the carcass, and feed it to animals, to dogs. That's Reb Shimon. We'll discuss in a minute. But when did the animal die? Clearly, it died on what? On Yom Tov, or on Shabbos. Rav Yudome im lo hois nevela me'erev Yom Tov asura. If the animal did not die before Yom Tov, it's muktzah. Because when Yom Tov began, or Shabbos began, when Shabbos began, the animal was off limits. You're not permitted to do shechita on Shabbos. So when the animal died, right, it wasn't mukhan, it wasn't in a position to be slaughtered. So if it dies on Shabbos, it's what? It's muktzah. Correct? Because when Shabbos began, this animal was off limits to you. Because shechita is not permitted on Shabbos. And now that it died, so you don't have to do melacha, nevertheless, it doesn't make a difference. It's asura, even though it's feed it to the dogs, it's muktzah. Because since it was muktzah when Shabbos began, it continues to be muktzah. But Reb Shimon says you could. You could move the carcass. You could feed it to the dogs. I feel them Reb Shimon. In our situation, we're speaking about hills balchayim shemesu. They're asurim. Second. Okay. So it seems the Mishnah is not going like Reb Shimon. So and now the Gemara says no. I feel him Reb Shimon. Moder Reb Shimon balicham shemeisu shasurim. Reb Shimon concurs that balicham that die are asurim. Yeah. Honich leman lemar mema mishmei dorov odom moder Reb Shimon balicham shemeisu shasurim shapir. El marber de Rav Yosef shei dorov the mecholok Reb Shimon afil balicham shemeisu shmutorim Michael Meimar. Right? How do we reconcile the Mishnah? Second. Yeah. There's an argument in Shabbos when we say, according to Reb Shimon, that if an animal dies, you're permitted to feed a carcass to the dogs. Is it speaking about the animals on the brink of death? So before Shabbos, you already knew it was going to die? Or even it's a healthy animal. Even a healthy animal dies, you're permitted. So our Mishnah one says, you're not permitted to move it if it dies. It's speaking where he was unaware that it was going to die. And it died. So even Reb Shimon holds you're not permitted. The muktzah is, the animal's muktzah. And that's our Mishnah. Right? They said it's muktzah. But if you hold that it's, even Reb Shimon holds even by a healthy animal if it dies, even there it's not muktzah. Right? It's not muktzah. So if that's the case, so why does the Mishnah say, if the Mishnah is well like Reb Shimon, it says, Lo yazim komi, you're not permitted to move it from its location? That's the first question, like this. After Reb Shimon, Mod Reb Shimon Bali Chaim Shmeis Shasur. Honich man Merev Nishmei Durov, or Mod Reb Shimon Bali Chaim Shmeis Shasurin. Shafi. So what's the case where it's permitted? Whereas it was Musukenes, it was a state of danger when Shabbos began. El Mabrid Reb Yosef Shmei Durov, the Cholokei Reb Shimon Bafil Bali Chaim Shmeis Mutorim. That even the case where the animal's healthy and it dies, it's not muktzah, permitted to feed it to the dogs. Michael and Maimar, what does our Mishnah say? Here, the animal we're talking about is not a regular, ordinary animal. Ordinary animal, even if it's healthy, it dies. Reb Shimon holds you can feed it to the dogs. Right? So it's not muktzah. We're speaking about it was a korban, and the korban died. Korban died. So what do you do with it? It's muktzah because you can't feed. Kochim that were kochim when the animal was alive cannot be fed to a dog because it's a disgrace. How do you know it's famous kochim? Because what's the next case associated with the first case? Chalash and itmes. What's chalash and itmes? Also, it has a sanctity classification. Just as challah is kodush, that's the reason why you're not permitted to eat it when it comes to contaminant. So the animal also is kodush. El taimi de kedisha habachul nishayo. But if it would, let's say, be a non-consecrated animal, Reb Shimon would hold it's permitted. Honich l'mabred Rav Yosef Shmei Durov b'cholok Reb Shimon av bali chayim b'shemeis v'shimon torim b'shapir. El l'mabred mei b'shmei Durov dom amodo hoyu Reb Shimon bali chayim b'shemeis shasur Michael Meimar. Skinim sukenes divrei hakol. Yeah, I'll be back in a second. 2 seconds. Feed to dogs. So the case is it speaking about it was Behemim Sukenes when Shabbos began? It was on its brink of death. So the person was aware what was happening, okay? And as a result of that, that's why when it dies, it's not muktzah. Because he was aware initially that the animal was going to become available. Or it's even behemoth's bori. Even if the animal is healthy and suddenly dies, even there Reb Shimon is lenient and says you're permitted to feed it to the dogs. So we want to, the Mishnah over here is going to Reb Shimon. It says in the Mishnah that if an animal dies, you're not permitted to move it. Right? We rule like Reb Shimon, which is lenient, and the Mishnah says the animal is muktzah. Why is it muktzah? So if you say that Reb Shimon only permitted the animal that dies, that he knew in advance that it was on the brink of death, so you'd say the Mishnah is speaking of a healthy animal that suddenly died. But if you say there's an opinion that says in Reb Shimon that even regarding a healthy animal when it dies, you're not it's not considered muktzah, right? Because the provision is not there any longer. So how do we understand our Mishnah? Why does our Mishnah say if an animal dies on Shabbos, you're not permitted to feed it to the dogs? You should be permitted to feed it to dogs. That's the Gemara's question. So our answer is the Mishnah is speaking behemoth's kochim. Not talking about an ordinary animal that dies. Kochim, you're not permitted to feed the dogs. So if that's the case, what's its value? It has no value. It has to be disposed of. So since it has no value feeding to dogs, that's the reason even Reb Shimon concurs that the animal is muktzah, therefore you're not permitted to move it from its location. The animal that dies, even if it's healthy, what's its value? It's dog food. Therefore it has value, it's not muktzah. But if it's kochim that you can't feed to dogs, because initially it was consecrated, that's the reason why you're not permitted to move it. That was what the Gemara answers. Okay? Excuse me. Gemara says, Tigma Aziri Bemis Kochim Dekanami. And how do I know you were able to deduce it the Mishnah? Because it's associated with the case of challah. The challah which became contaminated. Dikton alei, al challah shnibis, ma challah de kedisha, just as challah has kedusha, av behema de kedisha, el time de kedisha. So what's the reason why you're not permitted to touch it, to move it? It's because it's kodesh. Hodu chulin shario. But if it would be chulin, if it would be non-consecrated, it would be permitted. That's very good if you hold regarding the animal, even though it's not blemished, even though it wasn't musukenes, it's not muktzah. It's speaking about musukenes, and everybody concurs by musukenes. Over Reb Shimon, who mastis muskenes to show Reb Shimon bo, Kadluan Hilkos. It's very good. Our Mishnah that says you can't move it is speaking where it's not musukenes. The Mishnah, the Baraisa, the Reb Shimon says you could feed the animal to the dogs, but musukenes. Before Shabbos began, it was on its brink of death. Right? That's the reason when it dies, you're permitted to feed it to the dogs. Our Mishnah that it says that you're not permitted, you can't move it, is speaking not by behemoth's kochim, but rather by what? By an animal that you weren't aware was going to die. So even Reb Shimon is in agreement that what? That it's off limits. It's interesting. I mean, we have to explain this. The Mishnah says in Shabbos that if you have a candle and you light it, then ultimately the candle goes out. If it's an oil candle, there's always going to be a residue of oil left in the candle. So the question is, that residue of oil in the candle, are you permitted to, let's say you want to use it as salad dressing? Oil. So when Shabbos began, that oil was off limits to you because there was a burning wick in it. But after it's extinguished and goes out, the remaining oil in there, are you permitted to use? Reb Shimon says you're permitted to use it. Reb Yehuda says you're not permitted to use it. Since when Shabbos began, it was off limits, it remains off limits. Reb Shimon says no, it was only off limits because it was burning. Once the prohibition passes, you're permitted to use it. So Mara says, well, what about if you have a candle which is a 26-hour candle? A candle that he wasn't expecting should go out. It was going to burn through Shabbos beyond, and for some reason it burnt out before Shabbos. So Mara says even if Shimon agrees there that it's muktzah. Why? Because when he lit that candle, he negated the candle for the next 26 hours. So because over there was a negation, he took oil which is available, then he put it in a situation that it's not available. Putting a situation that's not available, and it was a neir godel, was a lengthy burning candle beyond Shabbos. Therefore, even if it should go out, he's not permitted. Our Mishnah that it says that the residue of oil that's left is permitted is neir koton. 5-hour candle. So he knew in advance it's going to go out. That oil will be available to him when it's extinguished, right? So the question now, you have the animal. There's a machlok samoroim. Rabbi Shimon says that the animal that is permitted to feed to dogs. It's speaking about the animal as mesukenes. So he knew in advance that the animal was going to die, similar to the candle, knowing the candle is going to be extinguished. So that's very good. Since it's mesukenes, therefore when it dies, the nevelo you could feed to the dogs, right? But if you hold that even behemoth bori, even a healthy animal, he was unaware was going to die, right? He was unaware was going to die. Even that's not muktzah, and you can feed to the dog. So why by the 26-hour candle? Why over there, when it goes out, why can't you use the oil, right? Everybody agrees. A 26-hour candle, when it goes out before 26 hours. The oil that's left in that candle you cannot use. And the animal, which he wasn't aware was going to die, if it suddenly dies, you could feed it to the dogs. How do I differentiate between the two? What do you say? You have enough knowledge, you should be able to make the differentiation. Yesterday we learned in Gemara, a person takes figs or grapes, puts them on a rooftop, right? And then the drying process begins, and it becomes inedible, and then it becomes edible again. We say, you're not permitted to eat it. You're not permitted to touch it, it's muktzah. Why is it muktzah? Because that's called dachi b'yadayim. There he did an overt act of negation. He negated it. He took it and put it in a position that shouldn't be edible by putting it on the rooftop. And it has no control over how soon it's going to become edible. Right? That's how we differentiate it. So there he did an act of negation. An animal that's healthy, did he in any way negate the animal to say it's not going to be available to him? You understand? By lighting the 26-hour candle, by putting the wick, a burning wick in that, that's meant to burn 26, what statement did he make? This oil will not be available to me for the next 26 hours. It happened to be, it was extinguished earlier. Doesn't make a difference. He already made that statement. Regarding the animal, it's healthy, it suddenly dies. Did he make a statement regarding the animal? He never did any overt act to indicate what the animal, whether he will use the animal, he won't use the animal. So since in that case there was no overt action to say this animal will not be available to me, from his part, it's not muktzah, if the animal should suddenly die. Reb Shimon, who doesn't know the muktzah, says as long as it's not negated, it's not muktzah. Because the person's mindset is, if something should present itself and I could use it, I will use it. That's Reb Shimon's. So that's the case, even if the animal's a healthy animal. He never suspected it should die. It doesn't make a difference. But was there a dachi b'yadayim? Did he do an overt action to negate it that it's not a food item? Never did anything. So therefore, even a healthy animal, when it dies, Reb Shimon holds, you can take that animal and feed it to the dogs. Exactly for that reason. But the 26-hour candle, when he lit it, he says, this oil will not be available to me for the next 26 hours. That was the statement, by lighting the wick in such a candle. So now it should go out earlier, you can't benefit from it.
Isn't there a possibility, though, that it could be a shorter run time
So when?
for the candle?
Yeah, but what's the usual? His mindset is that doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference.
Is the animal you're talking about in that example being used for the
No. Ordinary animal. Ordinary animal.
Because he didn't have any expectation of using it.
Doesn't make a difference. But Reb Shimon, according to that opinion, Shimon holds if there's no negation, a person's mindset is it only needs re-entry when it was put out. It was negated, it needs re-entry. But it's something which is neutral, you don't have to think about it. Whenever he could use it, his mindset is to use it. Oh, yeah.
So he had das. He had das by the candle, but he had no das.
No, he had negative das by the candle.
Negative das, but he had no das.
Here he had no das by the animal. A healthy animal all of a sudden dies. Did he say, we'll use it, won't use it? If it's available, we'll use it. That's what we call stam das. That's the mindset. By the candle, he did an overt act. Because as long as it's burning, he can't take oil out of the candle. And the normal duration period that it burns is 26 hours, 28 hours. A wind comes, blows that up before. He never expected that to happen. By a 4 or 5 hour candle, it will burn out afterwards. And factually, there's always a residue of oil. So he was aware of it. So there, even though he negated it, for how long did he negate it for? Only for the period that it was burning. But he didn't negate it for after it goes out. But over here, by the 26-hour candle, he negated it for what? For the time that it burns. When was it meant to burn? 26 hours. Therefore, it should go out earlier. But for the animal, he did no act of negation. He didn't do an overt act of preparation, but there was no negation. For Shimon's of the opinion, he does not do an overt act of preparation. As long as it's not negated, it's not muktzah.
Could he perhaps say that in case the candle goes out, I want to have in mind to use the oil for salary?
If he said that openly, it would not even. That's the Gemara in Sukkah. If you masneh, if it should happen, then it's not.
Then it would use the negation.
Right.
Sometimes if you look at it, just a little bit off the track, the animal dies, but dies in the doorstep or dies in the living room or something. You want to get it out of there.
That's for a different reason. That's because that's called graf sharik. You can't function because of its uncleanliness or whatever it is. Just remove it.
But you'd be allowed to remove it, but you wouldn't be allowed to make it into carcass for animals.
Right.
You just remove it.
You're not saying negation, you mean saying it's exclusive for this
No,
one use?
negation, it doesn't function in the capacity of food. If you put oil in a 26-hour candle, it does not, for the next 26 hours, it will not function in the capacity of a food item to be able to be eaten. Because it's not available to you. You put it in a position that it's not going to be available as a food item.
So it's exclusive.
Whatever you want to call it exclusive, but it's more than exclusive. You put it out of your purview. That's not within your grasp any longer for the next 26 hours by lighting it. It's like putting the grapes on the rooftop. Since you don't know what the eventuality will be, how long the process is going to take, putting the means that, for all intents and purposes, until after Shabbos, it's going to be off limits to you.
Depending on the intent. So let's say someone has the intent. If you don't have the intent, it's clear. But you have the intent, if it should go out, you could use it. You purposely, let's say, put it in the window. I think if the wind happens to blow it out, then I'll plan to use it for salad dressing. Maybe think of it and say it.
But you have to put it initially in a windy place. To say something, the Gemara says that if you, in Beitzah, the halacha is if you despair regarding an asset of yours, it becomes ownerless. Called yush. You despair, it's ownerless. What about if you don't despair? So it's not. So the Gemara says, what about if you put a person has a ship at sea, the ship is sinking, with all his cargo, with all his merchandise. And the man starts screaming, I'm not despairing. He says, I don't despair, because he's afraid now people are going to go and take the cargo of the ship, right? So he screams, I don't despair. Who are you kidding? What do you mean you don't despair? The ship's going down. So it's only purely words, but in your heart, you've given up. It's all over. So I'm saying same thing. If actually the candle's going to burn for 26 hours, that's unheard of that it goes out before, unless he lights in a windy place, right? What do you mean? I have in mind if. There's no. It doesn't exist. There's no if. It's just not reality. Okay. Next mission. Ein nimnen al behemo lechatchila b'yom tiv. We'll explain what this means. It's to evaluate the financial value of the animal on Yom Tiv. You know, let's say you go to a butcher and you say, I want a quarter of the animal. And the person says, and how much is it? Right? Well, the animal costs $1,000, a quarter, figure it out for yourself. Because that's already getting involved in a commercial transaction. But you determine everything before Yom Tov, the portion, the cost, and everything. And then you could slaughter based on that agreement before Shabbos, except for Yom Tov. They slaughter it and they divide up the various portions to the various purchases of those portions. Okay? My ein nimnim. The more wants what does ein nimnim do? Literally, what nimnim means you can't count, right? Moneh ein nimnin. My ein nimnin. Am Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel ein poskin dom lechatchila abeim b'yom. You don't talk finances regarding the animal on Yom Tif. Finances. Some more wants to know in what context you're talking about finances. Hechi domi, hechi ovid. Amar Rav mevi shtei behemus. Two animals, hear this. When you put one animal next to the other, because you want to know, you can't talk about the value of the animal. The animal that you're going to, because that indicates you're selling it, he's purchasing it. He's purchasing something, there's a debt. You take two animals, they're basically within the same league of value. Say, animal B is B, B is A, you slaughter A. Now, what do I want to know what you owe me? We'll take a look at B, and B will tell us what you owe. Instead, so you're only using B only to establish price, but you don't verbalize the price. Okay, maybe say this has the same. We're partners in a seller worth in the animal or two sloim in the animal. You can't talk in coins. You have to say a half, a quarter, and a third. Third and a quarter. Okay. I have $2, I have $1 worth in the animal. I have a half of the animal, a third animal, a quarter animal, a tenth of the animal. Those numbers you can talk, because that's not the vernacular used in the transaction. But it says, I'm in it for $50. That's already, that's a financial interest. Further. Now, are you permitted to use a scale on Shabbos, on Yom Tif? What do you say? This is pre-electric. Right? Are you permitted to use a scale? You're not permitted. Why? Because that's mekuch memkar. Anything which is a commercial activity, you're not permitted to. Weighing is something done commercially. Why? Because we're going to have a Mishnah later, because anything associated with purchasing has to do with writing. And we're concerned, you may write. Since it's Xera, you don't do anything commercial because of writing. So now you want to weigh. You go to the butcher, and he wants to sell a piece of meat. Now, how do you, so normally you have weights on the scale to offset, and that's how you figure out what it weighs. You can't, what about you're going to use a vessel? By understanding the weight of the vessel, after the vessel will tell you the weight of the meat. Instead of putting a weight on there, you put it one vessel, another vessel, and then you'll know exactly where you're at. So you're doing it differently. Is that permitted? So Rav Yehuda says, you can put a vessel on the other side, or you can put the meat cleaver. The meat cleaver itself, you can't use a scale, period. Why? Because what does a scale represent? A scale represents a commercial transaction. So under no circumstance could you use a scale. And it's irrelevant who the participants are. Factually, it's a commercial act, which you normally would weigh on such a scale, you weigh anything.
Is it Durabanum?
Durabanum, yeah. I told you, Xero Otuk Siva. Because whenever you make a transaction, there's always some writing involved. So if there's writing concern, you may come to write. He says, the Chum say, you're not permitted to use a scale under any circumstance. What does that add under any circumstance? Rabbi Yehuda says, if he uses a counterweight, a vessel or the meat cleaver, it's permitted. They'd say, you're not permitted. What's kol ikar under any circumstance? My kol ikar. Hear this. In the old days, they had a problem with rodents. scale hung from the ceiling. So let's say you just want to put the meat on the scale for safekeeping, to protect it from the rodents. Are you allowed? Since a scale represents commercial activity, even for that you're not permitted. That's the kolikar. For nothing whatsoever, you're not permitted to use the scale. So if you're not even for that, so you understand, to use as a counterweight a vessel or the meat cleaver, definitely not. Because there it's in the context of weighing, right? The case of the Mishnah, using as a counterweight the kupitz, the meat cleaver, and the right, and the vessel. He was saying, yeah.
Wouldn't be able to go with nefesh by losing your food to the rat?
Again, what's the problem? The rodents are going to eat it. The Chum say you're not permitted, so let the food go. What difference does it make?
No, it's that you lose your food. Then
So you lose your food. That's what it's pikuach. It's not pikuach nefesh. Okay. So that's what he says. Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel, Afil Shem Nachbar, Omer Rav Yidi Bar Ovin, V'udetali B'trita. It's hanging on a chain, right? That's the reason why you by putting it there, it's going to be protected from the rats. Okay, we'll stop here.
yeah.